Guys, this is the scariest film of the year. It's been compared to The Exorcist. And oh no, not to give anything away, but I thought this film was awful.
What a good start.
This is my intro. Like, seriously, if you like this film, well, listen, because we have a contrasting view apparently to everyone on the internet, because everyone's gone on about this film, and I think we've all watched a different film.
Yeah,
I really have.
like that.
If you don't know what we're talking about yet, we're talking about Hereditary, plus we're going to be going through some film news, so stick around. Welcome back to another episode of Tripod Talk, where we talk anything and everything about films. My name's Matt Lidster. I am your host, and as always, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Mr. Sophie Ellis and Mr. Dylan Moore.
Hi.
Hey, guys. Hey. What's going on?
What?
Just in general.
In general?
You okay? Yeah.
I'm good.
You good?
I
Yeah,
found
good.
a photo I wanted to show you both.
Oh, no. Well, that's bad, because we can't show anyone. We're on a podcast.
Sorry, you can cut it out.
I'm not going to cut it out. I can make everyone wait. Oh, okay. She's showing me an ass crack.
Whose is it? Matt's?
It's not mine.
Is it not? It's
What am I
usually
supposed to be reading? I'm going to have to cut this out, aren't I?
Anyway,
Thanks.
film news.
Thanks for that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You don't want the world to know your ass crack.
You know what?
starts
I'll just
between
keep
your
it in.
shoulder
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
I don't know.
No, you just
Can you
make me
imagine that?
self-conscious.
That's a grim thought.
That's what I think every time I try and look behind myself in a mirror now.
Right.
Now, let's move on to film news, shall we? Soph, do you want to start us off with some film news, please?
Sure.
Please.
Dr. Dre is planning a Marvin Gaye biopic.
Okay.
So I was reading that alone isn't just the news. Is Sammy Davis Jr. biopic in the works, and there's a Judy Garland biopic in the works. So do you think they're just taking over now? Because obviously we've got I don't know what it's called, the Bohemian one.
The Queen,
Oh,
the
Queen.
Is that what it's
It is
called?
I think it's
Mercury.
called Bohemian Rhapsody, yeah.
Yeah.
They've just called it that.
Like they seem to be taking over quite a bit. Do you think?
I think they've always been around, maybe just because like, there's been a few more high-profile projects being greenlit. That seems to be the case, but they've always been around. Like they did the Steve Jobs one a couple of years ago, and then they brought another Steve Jobs one out 2 years after.
Oh yeah, it does like say about that, but it just seems like quite a lot of them are coming out of the works at the moment.
Mm-hmm. I think it might be to do with as well, like, you know, the directors and producers and actors are getting more power, and I think a lot of them, that's kind of like passion projects of those kind of people. Is like, oh, I've always been obsessed with Judy Garland, and then like once they get a bit more leeway in the industry, then they can kind of make it happen. Whereas before, I think it was a bit more kind of studio run.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it could be interesting. The problem is you're always going to get people unhappy because it's a whole life. So how do you condense it into that time?
Yeah.
Like the whole kicking off with the Queen one, because apparently they don't go into Freddie Mercury getting AIDS, and like kind of apparently, you know, people have seen one trailer but they decide to talk about the entire film.
Yeah.
They're going to kind of minimize the stuff about him being gay, which is, you know, if they're showing it from a different part of his life, then what can you expect them to do?
Yeah.
That would be like a whole film in itself. But yeah, I think the way kind of audiences expect everything nowadays, it might be a bit harder to please.
Someone said, I can't remember what they kicked off about, but there's a Whitney Houston one coming out this year as well, and someone was saying some negative stuff about that. I just don't think it's particularly interesting to me, but I think that's just a personal preference.
I think the person's got to have, like, there are some really interesting famous people out there who've got involved in a lot of different things and have really interesting backgrounds and stuff. So it's about picking the right people. Like a Christopher Lee one would be interesting. He was worked for, like, he was like a spy in World War.
Though, how do you like condense that down into? So that's like its own trilogy in itself.
For an actor as well, imagine covering that age span if you went all the way back to youth. I mean, it'd be a lot of fun as an actor, which is why I can see why, although the pressure of it's a lot, they can see why they'd be into it.
Just right at the end with the death metal band.
But if you think about the Churchill film as well, like, makeup seems to have developed a lot over time, because that was not Gary Oldman, and then it was.
Yeah.
So you could, I reckon they might get better at playing different age spans.
Though that guy went back. Did he go back into retirement? Because I know like Oldman brought him out of retirement to do that film. So would he come out again?
It did, but yeah, that's a good point.
But I don't know. They don't really interest me that much, though.
Yeah.
Like, specifically the ones you brought up. I'm trying to think which ones actually do. And then I just forget all biopics that I've ever seen.
There wasn't, I don't think it was a biopic, but Heath Ledger, there was like a story about his life, that I Am Heath Ledger. I was interested in watching that at some point.
Well, people don't read anymore, so like
Yeah.
rather than reading an autobiography or a biography, if this is going to teach people about kind of the background of these, but then I'm kind of happy with it. I still think you're better off watching that than like Transformers or something like that.
Yeah.
At least you're learning something about like a living person and what they went through and stuff.
Yeah, we've been doing that recently, but I can't really call it a biopic because it's a series and it's more of a documentary. But I told you about it. We've been watching The Staircase on...
Getting a lot of hype on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. No, I was saying I really want to read his book if he's got one out, because I love the way that he talks and the way that he thinks about life. Michael Peterson. And we're just about to finish Making a Murderer, which... I think you hyped up more. It was better than it was.
Do you know what? It's so weird because I remember the first time around being so like emotionally invested and stuff, and then watching it back with you, I can't remember at what point I got so upset about.
It was new as well, like that whole genre that was kind of very early in it. So now,
Yeah.
whereas now there's a lot of them around, so maybe it kind of stood out a bit more as kind of a new thing.
Good point.
We've watched quite a few in between since then, so maybe that's the case.
Maybe. When I was younger.
When you were young, like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Anyway, Will Ferrell is set to star in a new film about the Eurovision Song Contest for Netflix.
Oh, right. When did he get out of hospital? The last thing I remember about Will Ferrell was he was in the hospital.
It wasn't that serious, I don't think.
Okay.
He said he's been a fan of the Eurovision since being introduced to it by his Swedish wife. He's set to write the screenplay with former head writer of Saturday Night Live, Andrew Steele. Black Panther's...
I was going to say he's still going.
Yeah.
Are you broken?
Black Panther's Chadwick Boseman hands MTV Movie Award win over to real-life superhero. So he got given an award which is like a popcorn in a red cup sort of
that's
award.
What they always look like.
And he thanked everyone and said that there's real heroes in the world, and called up James Shaw Jr., who fought off a gunman in the middle of a deadly shooting in Tennessee back in April, and gave him the award and said it's to stay in his house. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
And the last bit of news is A Quiet Place's John Krasinski has a really good idea for the sequel, but he's not sure if he's involved yet.
Oh, we covered this a couple of months ago.
Yeah, it was announced that there was officially going to be a second one, but he's not been in talks of whether he would want to come back.
It's one of those films I feel like you should leave it alone. Like Get Out, leave that alone.
Yeah,
Don't
do a sequel.
No. It's perfectly fine as it is on its own. Well, not just fine. It's really good and it stands out by itself. Like, don't try and franchise it.
Yeah. Well, Kate Blanchett was saying about how well Ocean's 8 has gone and said that they were already in talks of doing Ocean's 9.
Yeah.
So, can see how that's going to be
That's
going.
the only problem with those kind of films. Like you say, trying to set up a franchise and let it go. It's just I feel like you should concentrate on stories and singular things and work out from there. I think that's why I like the culture of smaller time directors being able to do more stuff on Netflix and different platforms now, because they're actually getting much more creative stories out there rather than what's going through the studios and what's coming out in cinemas now.
Yeah.
Well, that's just my opinion.
There's been kind of like an interesting dialogue about that Ocean's 8 film, because the kind of argument is it's not getting critically loved, and they're saying the critics are like overwhelmingly, there's something like 80% white males. So they're saying if it's not aimed at white males, we need to kind of bring up I don't know if we spoke about this last time.
Yeah, we talked about it last week.
Did we talk about it last time?
Just a little bit about people like Jessica Chastain and stuff.
And Brie Larson specifically.
Yeah, Brie Larson as well.
And for them to add more. I don't know, it's interesting. I still think there's a level of can't making too many excuses for yourself, and it's just like it's not a great film.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but like you can't just invalidate somebody's opinion because they're not the group they're not the kind of group to talk about. So I'm not sure. I can see it's absolutely right that there should be a bit more kind of representation and easier access for they would say people of color and women, but don't kind of don't try and pretend that's the only problem with the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that's a nice, well-rounded off point to last week's brought up.
Yeah.
Really.
Any
So-
news from you?
Well, speaking of last week, the only bit of news I've got is that Robert Zemeckis, who's done a lot in his time, Back to the Future, he wrote stuff like that.
Okay.
He's going to write and direct an adaptation of The Witches, the other Roald Dahl thing. So we did Matilda last week. This is the first kind of like Roald Dahl adaptation of note, if you think about it, since like 2005. Well, there was Wes Anderson's Fantastic Mr. Fox, which was good. Then there was that terrible Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in 2005. But I'm not sure. I hope it kind of. I'm not sure how much this younger generation, like it feels like the first generation that may not be as into Roald Dahl as everyone's been since he's lived. And I'm hoping it can bring some more attention to it because I really like his books. Even though some teacher made a point to me in school that really kind of messed with me as like a 10-year-old, where she was like, I don't like Roald Dahl's books because there's always a really evil villain and there's always like somebody really kind of nasty in there.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's kind of, you are making a good point. And if you read, there's a biography I'd recommend. He's got 2, and he had an interesting kind of life. Like, he was working in Africa for an oil company when World War II or 1 broke out. And he went and enlisted for the Air Force, even though he's like 6'8". He's like 6 inches above what should be in the plane. And they just kind of let him in because he could. First time he did a cross-country flight, his entire body cramped up, and they had to carry him out of the plane when he arrived. Yeah.
Bloody hell. Yeah, no, that'd be. It's funny. As soon as you said The Witches, for some reason, I just went like The Witches Hunt. That was just like a game.
The Witches scared the hell out of me as a kid. They was friggin' freaky when they peel off their faces and stuff. So yeah, I think this generation could do with a good scaring.
Yeah, it'd be interesting
Get
how
off
they do
Fortnite.
that.
Get off Fortnite, watch The Witches.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think I saw that actually, or read any
Read it.
sort of variation of it as a.
It's interesting whether they'll do it as a dark, sort of creepy way, or whether they'll still do it childlike because it sort of relates to us when we were younger. But we'll see.
Is that
That's about
the last
it.
of the film news?
Yeah,
Shall we jump straight into this film?
Yeah.
if we have to.
If we have
This
to.
is just going to be as painful as watching it.
Oh God! Right. Okay. So, for people who listen, I'm really hoping that you've got like a differing point of view because I'd love to hear what other people think. But
As long as it's not praising the film.
Yeah. Well, just to back it, like just as some context, I had a look online and I saw that the Rotten Tomatoes, which aggregates reviews, it got 91% from critics, but currently it's only on 56% from audience ratings. Some people are really kind of stepping out on it.
Okay.
And there's this company called CinemaScore who they send out test audiences in America, and they give an like an A to F rating, and it's got a D plus in that. So I don't think we're alone in what we're saying. What I'm saying.
Good.
It's just the overwhelming narrative that's being kind of marketed at us is that this is the most terrifying, kind of scary film of the year.
And if anyone who listened all the way through last week's podcast, you would have heard me show some panic towards the end of the podcast because I didn't realise it was supposed to be as scary as people say. But anyway, we are talking about Hereditary. New film. I don't know who it's by.
It's a new director actually. It's like a first-time writer director. It's his first feature film. So I think that's kind of to do with a lot of the credit it's getting. Is that it's hard to come into the horror genre. It's not. I can't think of the last person who's really made an impact like this guy may have done.
But does anybody want to give a quick summary of the film? Obviously, we'll try and do spoiler-free first before going into spoilers. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep the spoiler-free
I don't think
that
so.
long because there's just enough to go into that I want to talk about. Really, that has to do with the actual plot of the film. With that, and I don't, you have to give stuff away. But yeah, is any quick summary?
I honestly couldn't even think how to summarise this film.
Yeah, it's hard to summarize. It's kind of like they're kind of an upper middle class family in America, I'd say, who has a younger daughter who has some kind of. Nothing's explained to you. That's like a theme in the film. There isn't really any exposition or there isn't much dialogue. But the younger daughter's got some kind of mental disorder, you'd have to say, and this family, the mother of the family, her mum dies. Right, it starts with that, and then everything kind of spirals into their family, and there's some kind of, not to give it away, but there's some, culty, there's some freaky stuff going on with her family.
Yeah, some freaky stuff. It seems to be like more of a ghosty sort of story, and then it's sort of
Yeah, it plays out as a demonic sort of possession
just
film.
yeah. Before we go into it, maybe we should just kind of put a
Demons.
spoiler alert
Yeah, I
straight
don't
away,
think we can-
because I feel like if anyone wants to watch it without, I feel like we might give some stuff away. So just in case, are we okay to put the klaxon on?
Yeah, let's do it.
There it was. Right, okay. So yeah, it starts off with the death of the grandmother, and you kind of get introduced to this family. There's one thing. Let's start off happy. Okay. There's one thing that I did like about this film.
Mm-hmm.
It was different. It wasn't jump scary.
No.
Like, I hate that about. That's the main reason why I don't like horror films, because I get scared easily when it's like, something takes you off guard. Like, I don't mind stuff that's like particularly creepy, that's supposed to creep you out in a way that is supposed to kind of disturb you. Again, I don't feel like it necessarily did. I can see why it did for some people, but this film for me, it was a bit of a slow burner, which was a bit of a. I think it took away from the film at times how slow it actually was, but I did appreciate the way that it did. It was different, and it was went into something I didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if we are just going to stick with the positives for now, I've got two.
Nicely done.
There is speaking of it being a slow burner as well, we learned that there's an hour cut from the actual film, so it should have gone on for 2.5 hours.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it said that the director cut it out because he wanted to work with a family drama rather than a full-on horror film, which sort of takes away from what you see on the trailer. But the good point is how the trailer kind of misdirects you, because you believe that this main little girl is a key role, and
she dies.
she dies
Early.
pretty
Early on. Yeah, that took me by surprise. Like,
Yeah.
I was expecting her to be the main character throughout the whole thing. So when it was a bit horrible, really, because she had an allergic reaction to a peanut in a cake or something, or whatever it was, or just some nuts anyway. I saw it coming a mile away, because there was like one line of dialogue right at the beginning of the film.
In the film.
like literally, and like that was the one line, so I was like, okay, this has got to come back at some point.
Yeah, because she was eating chocolate, and so is there any nuts in that? Is there any nuts in
Yeah,
that?
because I don't have like the thingy pen, whatever you need.
Well, why not just take the EpiPen, by the way? That annoyed me
That's
in the
it.
first place.
Yeah.
Like, what? It's not like a goddamn massive 8-ton thing that
Yeah,
you've got
you'd
to lug
always
around.
take it with you.
You
It's
can
such
stick
a-
it in your pocket.
Yeah.
So ridiculous. She'd have it with her, in fact. She's old enough to be responsible
Yeah.
for that. So, yeah, that was a stupid thing.
I'll
But
run
then,
on to the stupid thing.
to be fair, the mum has done some weird... Well, we'll get into it later, but clearly they're not the most normal running family.
Yeah.
I've got two good things, too.
Oh.
So
Okay,
I might as well
yes.
get them off the bat straight
Yeah.
Have
away.
you done all your good points so far?
I think we'll all cover around the same thing to do with the acting, I think, possibly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was going to be my point one,
Yeah.
is that it is well acted.
What a
Like,
segue. Sorry.
I think was it one of you two who was kind of off put by the elder brother in
Yeah,
it?
it's me.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I liked him. I thought he was
yeah,
good.
I really liked
But
him.
he didn't
yeah.
look anything like their child, so that annoyed me for the start.
Yeah.
Like, he's not even adopted, like he's like another species. He looks that far from their child. It's just ridiculous to me. Like, I understand casting the best actor, but there has to be some kind of feasible explanation for there being a familiar relationship.
Even if it's just one line in the film that explains it,
Yeah,
that's
like-
fine. It's like, okay, so you might have got that from your birth mother, or whatever, something like that. Like a throwaway line like that, it would have
Just
explained
throw
it.
a joke in, just like, yeah, he doesn't look anything like you. But do you know, like, was she having an affair when she had him? All like there's a lot of subtle ways of doing that, but this film wasn't really playing that game. I liked as well. There's kind of, it was more of like a literary technique than what I've seen in films, but they did a thing where they kept messing with time passing in terms of how long it had been, in terms of when the mother was in grief. So the
Yeah.
child died, and there's a thing where people always say in those kind of periods of grief, it can be some months, it can be 2 weeks. It's just this kind of blur of just you trying to get on with your daily life in that kind of mental space. So I think they kind of did a good representation of that, with how you kind of had an idea how much time had gone, but it could have been 2 weeks, it could have been 6 months.
Yeah.
But it kind of flowed in itself. So I liked that. I thought that was kind of a well done facet of it.
Yeah. I agree with that. You can never really tell how much time has passed there, but I think that's the same as when we're watching it. Like, I don't know how many times I was just looking at you two, like, it feels like I've been in here for at least a day. Like, how's this still going on?
I think there's a thing that sometimes happens where, like, films that are different and slow and they don't feed it to the audience and stuff, and like the kind of from new interesting people, critics can jump on them as, and I think they can sometimes be given too much credit. Like, just because you don't spell things out for the audience or you're different to everything else, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a lot better. So I think with this, I kind of like, obviously I'm not as well like versed in everything as the film critic should be, but I think sometimes it's just giving credit to something for being that kind of ambition and that kind of feel to it, even when it doesn't necessarily deserve it as a film.
Yeah.
See, like, going on your point of like things not necessarily drip fed to the audience, maybe it's just because we watch a lot of films, but as soon as Joan came into it, I was like, well, she's not who she seems.
Yeah.
You know, the friend.
Yeah.
And I was like, I knew she was got to be some part of the plot further down the line. I'm just looking at her like, she's in on this.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if everyone's supposed to get that. Maybe it was just us, or like. So
I feel like people must have picked up on, because you looked at me and you put, like, you were doing that. You were trying to, like, weigh out whether she's all right or not. And I was just shaking my head like, nah, she's not.
Nah.
It was too much an obvious character, but then it could have been a double bluff. And, you know,
Yeah.
I quickly thought it was going to be a cult as soon as she, like, came onto the scene.
I think the problem is, as well, is like the pacing was really slow, but there was nothing in it to keep you really engaged. Like, I just felt like I was dripping in and out of attention, and it wasn't a problem for me.
Yeah.
Like, with certain films that are slow paced, it's like you might miss something big, or just I felt like it was that. And it was also, I think, kind of a fundamental thing was I didn't ever develop any kind of kinship with, like, I didn't like the family. I wasn't that invested in them doing well. You don't have to be, but like, I wasn't even particularly invested in finding out their backgrounds or how, because they were just living a boring life, and then everything caught up with them. But there was just never any point where I was that compelled by the people in it. The son's a bit of a weirdo. Like, he's just a routine, by the way, Route 1 kind of creepy guy who doesn't know how to talk to girls in high school.
Can I bring up a point? There was one point of the film, like right near the beginning of the film, where, like, I think you got it as well, like, because we kind of gave each other a look. But there's one point where he's looking at the girl that he likes, and she just turns around, but she doesn't do anything, and she just hangs there for about 5 seconds, and I'm like, oh, this is a bit weird.
Yeah.
Like, just as an acting choice, or like as a choice for the director to kind of add that in, I just thought, oh.
Yeah,
at that point, I was just like, is this film going to be shit?
I know. I thought it was deliberate, just to kind of put you in the kind of weird mind space of this dude. Like, he isn't aware of enough social cues to know to look away now, because someone might see you just staring at the back of somebody who's got no interest in you.
Or even then, the other way around, why is she staring for that long at him? She should know those social cues as well.
See, I think the main thing, because we all went into it because there was that much hype, as we sat there, it opened and it sort of zoomed in on this dollhouse with all these dolls, sort of went in, and then it ended up being a scene with real actors instead of dolls.
Yeah.
And from that, I was like, this is going to be so cool.
Yeah,
this
it's a nice
dollhouse is going to play into it. There was a point where she put the nan who just died, her like figure in the hallway. That never came into play. The houses never came into play at all.
I thought they were going to be much more of like a puppeteer sort of thing, and someone was supposed to be controlling everyone.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I thought where this film was going, in terms of like someone being in control of the people. So
I thought they'd at least use it as a metaphor. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I get it as a metaphor as well, but I thought it was going to be like a more of a literal thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
or like, as someone died, and then they look down and someone's head's come off, and you know, and she hasn't done that. In that case, that'd be fairly freaky. But
the only point of it is her job as an artist. She was behind on her deadlines, and then when she got angry, she broke everything. But anything could have fulfilled that plot structure. It could have been a lot better kind of integrated into it.
Yeah.
It just started pulling in every aspect of supernatural stuff kind of out of nowhere in the second half without really. It felt to me a bit like, all right, we'll throw this one in, we'll throw this one, like, we'll have a spell book, we'll have some cults, we'll have a creepy, we'll have some magic. Like,
the one thing that cheapened the entire thing, other than, you know, like the Ouija moving the glass.
Yeah,
The
that was lame.
orbs, the light
The
that
light thing,
sort
yeah.
of reflected. I
that's
was like, what is this?
I had to look online for like some theories. People are just like, no, it's like that Payman or whatever he's called. It's his presence, or
Yeah.
like. But again, it's just because it's a horror supernatural film doesn't mean you can just throw in random shit because you feel like it.
Yeah.
Like
so
we still
weird.
want some kind of logic as an audience.
Yeah.
like going into like you saying they're adding certain bits in. There was I thought it was going to be a bit more prevalent because near the beginning, the nan dies, and she's putting some stuff away. She's looking through a photo album, the mum, sorry, and she turns off the light and you can see a figure. And I was like, ooh, this is creepy. Like you can tell it's the nan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then it only happened like one more time later, like right at the end of the film. I'm like, why is this not something that's, you know, added in more and more because that's what you're trying to go towards? Or but no, it was just like a one-time gig right at the beginning and then right at the end as well. It was a nice creepy figure, I must admit. You know what? The towards the end, sorry, where it's in the corner.
Oh yeah,
because everyone's like, oh, and at that point I'm like, it's a jump scare coming because I can't be asked for that.
Yeah.
So I'm just there holding my breath, just like, okay.
Yeah.
And then it just kept going, and I was like, oh, please do something. And then it did like a weird crawl, and I was like, okay, I've
A
lost
crawl
it
in the air as it floated out. I hated that.
By the
Like,
time I
Yeah.
got to that point, I was so apathetic. Like I just didn't
Yeah.
care. I was beyond. No one could scare me because I was
Yeah.
just dead inside. I was just so bored.
Yeah.
And like, when could I leave?
I think like that part is creepy because there's a part, it's either in Sinister or Conjuring or one of those type of films. There's a girl in a room and then there's this shadowy figure on top of the wardrobe, and that freaks me the fuck out.
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw it in the corner, I was like, oh, here we go. This is where something starts kicking off. And then she chases after the son. He locks her out and she starts banging her head really fast on this attic door. And I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go.
That was
And then
good,
it
yeah.
was just, that was the highlight of
There was
the
a
film.
couple of flashes of that, like when she was hanging from the rafters and that smacking the roof. That
Yeah,
was about
that
the
was-
only two good little like moments of it.
Yeah, I liked the gore and the kind of, well, it wasn't really necessarily gory, but I liked the image of it. But there's one image,
Weirdo.
which sounds weirder, actually, looking into it. Why did the naked people not come into it more? And not like that. That's not what I mean. I don't want to be like more balls or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's like going
How we
towards.
went to balls more than
Yeah, I know. Why would you, that's we'll deconstruct
you know.
that later. Well, you two can.
No,
I'll be gone.
No, but talking about like the nan at the beginning, and it's like that one-time effect, and it happens one time again.
Yeah.
It's like right at the beginning with the funeral. There's a weird guy giving the girl a look, and he
That's the
looks
cult.
super creepy, and
Yeah.
he's like part of the cult. And then no one in the cult is ever seen in the background or anything again until right at the end when they're suddenly just naked.
Yeah.
I'm like, surely at least build some kind of background points so that it kind of plays out throughout the film. It's just like, no, boom, here we go.
Yeah, what was so weird to me was that guy's smile in itself was creepier than the entire film.
It was.
Like, give him
no
justice,
offense
just
to
not-
him.
not
I mean, he did a good job.
Blinking, just stood there naked,
I don't even
smiling.
remember the guy.
You know,
No.
he was stood in the hallway and he was naked, and this guy turned around, he was still smiling, and then he got chased by the woman
Do you remember him at the beginning?
at the
No.
funeral.
Over the funeral bit?
Oh, it's just
I
this
think my
creepy
brain's
ass
just
smile.
like overwritten.
It's like when she's looking at her nan and she's lay in the coffin, she looks over and this guy's just like...
This blonde guy. Yeah, that
I'm trying
was
to do
weird.
an impression of it. It's not good.
He was weird, but I think, because even you said, which was I suppose more of an interesting theory, when she goes to the group therapy thing, you were like, oh, what if they're the people from the cult? Because
that'd be
obviously
cool.
that woman
Yeah.
caught her in the car
driving
park
out.
and said from it, so she could have enticed her to come in.
Yeah.
And then obviously the ritual that she teaches her to do to contact her son, and then she says, you know, you can contact Charlie this way. It was just a ritual to open up this gateway to this other demon.
What did you think of the effects and like the way that apart from the floating thing?
The
'Cause
floating thing happened several times though.
I meant more just with like the effects of the ghost being in the room or whatever.
The figure right at the start is probably the only impressive thing to me. I think that's about it. I can't-
I wasn't that impressed by it either. I was just thinking, like, when I've had a look online, there's been a lot of articles explaining what's going on. So like, the cult people maybe do stuff in the background, like they dug it up. But I didn't really think about, because the problem is you only get to it if you think about it all at the end afterwards. Yeah. And I was kind of done by that point. Like, do you remember the shot of the lamppost where they hit with the car?
Yeah.
With the kid's head, and they had the mark on the lamppost. So did you kind of put two and two together and realize that meant it wasn't an accident that little girl's head got taken off?
Ah, no.
That was somehow the cult's influence, because they wanted the male post, because the little girl is imperfect. Because she's a girl, so apparently sexist demon.
Yeah.
And like also she had.
So they're the ones who lay out the thing in the road for him to turn that way.
Maybe I presume so.
Yeah, because he panicked, didn't he? And
I forgot about the thing in the road, so I just thought, oh, magic. They just magic. But because how would they know she'd have her head out the window?
That's what I mean, though. It's like
reaction.
Yeah, exactly. So
and also, there seems like a lot of easier ways you could engineer that girl dying without needing to behead her
with a much cleaner beheading. You know, Dad's just ordered a guillotine. Oh, let's see if it works. That seems more likely than the dog in the middle of the road and then there's a lamppost right there.
I think because just sat on Logic's side, as soon as that happened and he got back and he just walked into his house and went to bed, and then she came down, she was like, oh my god, I found this. She didn't think, I'll call the police. She didn't think anything like that. It was like there was a funeral, but there was no sort of investigation. He did get put away for manslaughter.
I was like, what's going to happen to this dude immediately? Because do you think he just went to bed, by the way? Because my first thought was like, oh, he's shell shocked. He doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah. But then I was like, well, he's stoned as well. So like, if he calls the police, they test him, he's going to be in deep trouble. So
he's in deep trouble anyway.
Is there not criminally? Like he would then it becomes like a whole new level of like if he was just driving and saw a deer and veered off the road and the little sister's head got took off, all right, bad luck, mate. But if you're over the limit of drugs, then you're gonna be in deep. So I don't know. Then I was like debating that with myself, but then I think the way it was played, it was just that he was in some kind of shock and he was
in shock, went to sleep. But then I understand he was like upset and grieving, but any other parent, any person surely would call the police. Like, obviously they would have had to contact someone to get the body for the funeral, and nobody asked questions that her head came off.
Yeah. Why does he say we're jumping about here, but why does he say mommy as well?
Right, yeah, we would say it.
I don't think anybody, maybe it's American, maybe it's like he reverts to 3-year-old him, but even so, I'm not buying it. Like, what? Don't do that. Just say mum. So that was just annoying.
Yeah, I think that was supposed to show
he'd gone into some childlike mental state.
Yeah, and just panic but either way, I can be panicking, but I'd never say mummy.
Yeah, and who doesn't start to associate more with their dad once their mum tries to light them on fire or she's asleep?
Yeah.
And who doesn't lock their door?
Yeah.
I think at that point I'm like, all right, I'm getting a door lock, mum. This feels entitled. I
no
feel
offense
like I've
to
earned
you, but you tried to kill yourself and me.
Yeah.
So
the dad seems like the most normal guy, but at the same time, he's not really spoke up about that much. So is he that normal?
Yeah, I think he is, because I think he's a skeptic to it all. I reckon that's how I would react in that situation. I'm just like, okay, you need help.
I think he played
none
it well,
of this is
though.
happening. Yeah, he played it.
He was acting well because there was a good amount of I'm just gonna kind of appease her because she's in a state. She just needs to see that this isn't gonna work. And then when the limit does get crossed, you can kind of see what it is. Although again, it's very convenient that it gets crossed at the exact point where he says no to a really. What did he want? What did she want him to do? Throw a book in a fire.
Yeah. So
and he was like, "No, that's it. You've crossed the line. I'll do a Ouija board. I'll do a séance. You can set my son on fire, but I'm not burning paper."
Well, she did explain to him that if you put that book in there, my body has to go with it. So I will die if that happens.
But then
again,
in my
he'd
head,
be like, what
I'd
you
be
want
like,
about?
fine, this is evidence for me that when you don't set on fire, you're mentally ill and we're shipping you off somewhere with white walls.
Yeah,
I mean,
all
either
it was
way.
was a book.
Either way, he would have died. So just.
But even then, why did everything change? Because when she put the book in first, she went on fire.
I think it's the evil of the fire, the demon. The demon was like, all right, first off, I'll punish you. You didn't take the warning. I'm going to go for someone you love rather than just you because you're in this.
Okay.
And he'd need to get him out of the way either way. It just,
I just thought it was a bit more for the plot's sake. It's like, oh, now suddenly it's him who died.
It seemed that way.
Bad do, Which was a shame because I really liked him.
The dad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but can we talk about it? It was a really good bit that I liked, actually.
Oh God, what?
Yay. It was a good bit. The dinner scene. And
Yeah,
Toni
okay.
Collette just goes off on one. And I'm like, go on, son.
Yeah, she was amazing in that scene.
She's amazing in the film, to be fair.
Yeah.
She's really good.
Mm.
But that's
And-
not going to carry the film for me.
No.
No, yeah, no, I don't think it can do for me either. But even the way that he reacts, the boy, Alex Wolff, I think his name
Yeah.
is.
Mhm.
I can't remember his character's name. Is it David? I'm not sure.
Don't
Don't
think it's
know.
David.
I don't know.
Peter? I don't know.
Could be Peter.
Could be Peter.
Maybe.
Something biblical.
That's why.
Oh yeah, no, it is Peter.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because it was
Hey.
dated back to a king, like with the crown.
Did they
It
call him
was
Peter?
the
Because that's
Yeah.
creepy to me. Don't be David. Don't be Peter. Don't be like Christopher. Just go for a shorthand, you weirdo.
But yeah, no, I really like that scene. Yeah,
There's some good
but-
dialogue in there, to be fair. Like
Mm.
that's the thing, is like when there was dialogue, it was quite, especially between characters, it was quite good. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't think enough effort was put into giving you. It wasn't quite enough follow through to like understand what was going on.
Yeah.
And then it was too slow paced, and then we just weren't that invested in what was happening to them and finding out, like, because half of it's wanting the people to do well and survive, which is kind of dumb because they're not. And
Yeah.
half of it's like trying to work out the mystery as well. But there was never any chance of you working out
The
specifically
mystery.
what was going on, because
Yeah.
there was no, like, the director said he threw a load of clues in, but if they were super oblique and
Yeah.
like not really, you're not gonna let you work it out in advance.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the thing with the trailer as well, obviously, it redirects you to you thinking it's paranormal or whatever. It shows the dollhouse and her working on it. It shows the little girl doing the mouth click. She asks her mum about who's going to take care of her when she dies. And then just the head banging and the floating and stuff like that. Most of that is done within the first 15 minutes of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like the rest of the day in the cinema that you spend watching it isn't in the trailer at all, which
Mm.
I kind of don't like. I don't think there's a good balance anymore, because we're watching a film, we're like, we know the entire plot now. But
Yeah.
then if you go into something thinking it's creepy because of a specific reason, and then it's not, it just,
Yeah. I just felt,
stupid film.
yeah, I think we were saying as well afterwards, for the whole time the daughter was on, I just felt a bit uncomfortable, because I was just like, this
She's
girl's
just
just
in
there
it.
because she looks like she's there to look weird and to be creepy.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's a fucked up thing to
Yeah.
do to like a 9-year-old. Like, she must know as well she's in it because she's weird, and then that's gonna linger with her
Yeah.
for like her whole life. So I don't like that side of it at all.
Yeah,
I
I
know
feel
what
like
else can
that's
they do, but
because they reference it with dialogue. Because I remember us picking out specifically what they said, like the body was imperfect,
Yeah.
and it's like maybe they would have done it with a different actress. I don't know, but
I don't think so.
I feel like that was an unfair thing to add in just for her. But at the same time, like
She must be alright
still
with
credit to her, because I thought she played the part really well.
yeah.
I wish she was on screen more, to be honest. But I still like the swerve.
Mhm.
Hey, I
Nice.
didn't even mean to do
Nice.
that. But is there any other points you want to go into this film, or shall we put it through the test?
Let's put it through the test.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the 10-star movie review where we put films through the ultimate test. For every question we vote yes, the film gets.
1 star.
Hey, the ultimate goal is
10 stars.
stars. As there are 3 of us, the majority vote wins. Though half stars are up for contention when necessary. And a small disclaimer: the ratings we give don't always enjoy. No, they don't always match our enjoyment or experience of the film. This is just a rating system. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so question number 1: does the story make sense?
No. Let's start off strong with
Not
a no.
really, no.
No.
And it
Yeah,
definitely doesn't.
no.
It might make sense in retrospect if you think
Yeah.
it through and do some Googling and watch it twice.
Yeah.
But like, I
Who
don't
would
think
do
anybody
that?
walks out the film being like, okay, so that cult was involved from that predecessor of, like, I don't
no,
think
it
that's...
didn't.
Yeah,
No,
no,
just
that's a
no
fair
star.
enough point. And to be honest, I don't want to give it the star, so I get no stars.
I'm going to be pissed if it gets more than 3.
I'm going to be pissed if it gets more than 1 right now. Did the script and the dialogue between the characters feel natural?
Yes, apart from Joan. Weird bitch.
Yeah.
But that might be down to her acting. But I feel like as much as it can be, like with the arguments and the couple and her going sleeping elsewhere and he's...
And the family dynamic as well. I
Yeah.
feel like that they all kind of interlinked well enough to kind of...
Yeah, and it's bound to get weird after one of them dies. And yeah. Okay, yeah, one star
I'll
for
give
that.
it a
One
star for that
star,
too. I think the
okay.
dialogue was alright.
Question number 3. Did you believe that the world of the film existed?
No.
No, not really.
It's just my thing with cult films. I know there are cults about, and I know things like this does actually happen where people perform rituals and stuff, but no.
I just felt like it was a bit too much of a plan, and the whole history of it, like, I didn't quite buy that it would work, and that there wouldn't be at some point where you would like, all right, I'm getting out of here. Like, do you not move out when your mum tries to set you on fire? Like,
There's some sort of social services you can ring when you do that.
Does she not does she not put herself in kind of some kind of facility? I don't know. I just I didn't think there was enough rationale given, because even if it's a cult film with supernatural elements, you still have to build in some kind of logic within that, and this just felt like, oh, I'm gonna whip out a cool blue light now. Okay, now we'll do some naked fat white people.
Yeah, there was a lot, for me, there was a lot of stuff that it needs to be there because the plot demands it.
Yeah.
Like the swerve, like the, I can't even think of anything else, right?
Him being set on fire and stuff.
Yeah, bits like that. No star from me.
No.
No star from you guys. Okay, question number 4. Did you believe that the characters existed in the world of the film? I'm going to say yes, specifically just off the way she kind of reacts in certain scenes. Though, I do want to point out, even though I thought Toni Collette was good, I did think at times she really dragged out scenes longer than they needed to be. Whether that was her choice or the director's choice. I'm not sure, but I feel like it could have been condensed with certain, like, just for example, the bit where she's trying to get the husband to throw the book in.
Yeah.
I thought that lasted so long. It doesn't need to be that long, and then there was no payoff for it anyway. But
that is the entire film, though, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. But sorry, I kind of deviated a little bit there. Characters exist in the world of the film, yes or no?
I wouldn't say so.
No, Dill?
It's just because it's too...
Yeah, go on.
There needs to be a character to fit this description. There needs to be... It just seemed convenient. There's like a skeptic, there's someone that sways them, there's someone that's gone through enough to believe it, and it's probably just because I've watched quite a lot of horror films. Even though it's supposed to be original and there's not that many cliches, the characters in themselves are quite...
that's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
I'll negotiate to a half star if you like, Matt.
Yeah, I could do a half star.
Yeah, okay.
We'll give it a half.
Yeah, straight on that.
Full star.
Question number 5. Did you get emotionally invested in the
No.
characters?
No, God, no.
Do we need to talk about that?
I wish
No.
they died more gruesomely.
To be fair, going into the props and stuff, I thought the head looked pretty cool. Not cool, but it was made very well. And I just didn't like the floating body.
Those shots just don't have the impact they would have 20 years ago. Like, we've all watched like TV shows that'll do that. Like Santa Clarita Diet.
Yeah.
Does dead bodies better than that film did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a worrying statement, that, isn't it? It's one of the scariest films of the year, Santa Clarita Diet. Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah. Question number 6. Did you like the visual and audible elements of the film?
Audible, yeah. I really like the scoring for this film because it's the only thing that made things a little more tense, and it sort of, certain points it sent vibrations during a point where you could tell someone's like panicking. And it sort of swayed you to when things are more dramatic and when things aren't, in comparison to like any other horror film. It'll build it up and it'll go quiet and everyone's panicking for a jump scare, and then it'll tense down and then you get made jump. But because there's no jump scares, it swayed you towards when something was happening, and I kind of like that.
The score was how I knew how significant anything was.
Yeah.
Because everything seemed so mundane, and like I just followed the score more than anything.
Yeah.
So I kind of give it the credit on that. The way it was shot was, I mean, it was a first time guy, and it wasn't bad. I think more it's kind of the construction of the story and the kind of length of the scenes and stuff that gave it kind of trouble for me.
Yeah.
So I'd probably give it a star for that.
Yeah, because if you take away the orb situation, everything else, like when the kid is in school and he sees his like smiling reflection, he smacks
I was just about
himself
to go
off.
that. That was a well shot scene.
Yeah, I like
thought.
that.
The way it kind of actually went about showing it.
Mm.
Did you notice the dude recording on his phone, by the way?
Yeah.
Like they had. I'm glad they
No.
threw that in there because that would absolutely. I'm surprised it
100%
went
would
all.
happen, yeah.
Yeah.
The only point I want to put across before we give it a judgment on this are the stuff like the body floating.
I know.
Is that forgivable to give it like a star or
I
a
honestly
half
don't
star?
remember a body floating. I know you've talked about it a few times.
Why
Remember
is-
right at the end where she's cut off her, she was stuck
Oh
in
God, yeah.
Yeah, that bit, and then it goes up into
that
the garden.
that was so
Not
lame.
just that, did you not see? When she was up on the ceiling, when the shadow, there's this part where like they're breathing and it does this weird floaty crawl like it's running out, and it was the most ridiculous. It looked like a baby's first crawl, but it's like sped up.
Is that when it was
the way
in the
it
dark?
went out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
just
we
remember
talked about it
laughing
before.
and being like, what am I watching? How is this still?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
oh.
what I'm just like, because it was good for like right at the beginning when it was the figure in the dark, but with those bits, is that forgivable enough to give it a
I'd
half
say
or a full?
half star probably, just because the scoring of it did help a lot in the film. Without the scoring, this film would be...
Although I wasn't that happy with the scoring at the end, it felt very Interstellar to me for some reason. Like right at the end where it's like the revelation, sorry, that it's Payman, the
Yeah.
garden. It was all kind of. I thought like Matthew McConaughey was going to turn up and be like, "What time is this?" I don't know.
That
That was bad.
You
I need
you
to-
always pop out the impressions you can't do as well.
I know.
Like, you can do like tons, and you bring out like.
I need to listen to him. Probably. I reckon I could do that whenever I listen to him again, but
Okay.
not
well,
now. We
I'd
can
cut
save
it
that
out
for
for
another.
now.
Nah, we'll keep it in. It's fine.
I don't mind a
Yeah.
half star though. I do.
Half
Yeah.
star. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to give it a half star.
So it's on 2.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Is that it?
Phone?
Yeah.
Wait, no, we got
It's
more.
had 2 half stars so far and 1 star.
Oh, of course,
On.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Two
you.
star. Were you diegetically absorbed
No.
into the film?
No, I was so bored.
I don't know
Yeah.
how many times that me and you were just pulling faces at each other and making each other laugh in the cinema. Like, we'd just given up watching at one part where a good, 5 minutes, we were just like, this is shit.
Yeah, no. It was boring.
Yeah.
It just dragged out too long. I can't believe they shot an extra hour that didn't make it in.
Yeah, what happened? I bet that could have been, really creepy stuff that they cut out, so...
Yeah, I
more
reckon that
people-
was the cult stuff probably, because it said they wanted to focus more on the family stuff.
Family drama, yeah.
So
which
maybe if there's a director's cut and we watch another one further
No,
down
you're
the
right.
line.
I can't. I really can't.
No, it's
Okay.
just wasn't entertaining.
No. Okay, no star. 8, did it have a good ending?
No.
Good God. If anything, it made the film worse.
All the reviews come out with that last hour is devastating. Like, it's just real poor. Because it builds I can see how some people would enjoy they built up tension and stuff for the first hour, and you've got some kind of is there going to pay off with what's going on here? But just for the ending, it was just like, this is just a colossal disappointment. I don't know.
Yeah, no, not at all. No star.
Okay. Question number 9, did you enjoy the film?
No.
Hell no.
I don't think I've disliked a film this much since Kidnap.
That's a good shout.
No, I still preferred this to Kidnap. Kidnap was god awful.
And I think I prefer Kidnap. But I think because on Kidnap I had the choice to go on my phone while we watched it.
Yeah,
Whereas
that's the
this,
thing,
you
isn't
have
it?
to sit and watch it. And this
Yeah.
had a much bigger hype than Kidnap.
Do you
Bloody
think
hell.
the hype to this ruined the expectation for the film?
I'm not sure. I think it probably factored in for me.
Yeah. Because you go in oh my God, this must be, pretty scary. But to class it as... Yeah, probably.
Well,
but it's still shit anyway, so...
We both were seeing on Twitter and stuff that people if anyone clucks around me, I'm gonna freak out and stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't fathom how anybody could be that. Because I do that shit all the time, by the way. I walk around work just clucking. And it just didn't creep me out. It just felt,
Yeah, no.
no, I just was not close to being scared at any point.
Sorry,
Sorry, no.
we saw this a few days ago, and we're still it's not one of those films where you have to sit, think about it, read into it, and now you're like, oh my God, I have a new appreciation. Like, straight
Yeah,
away,
no.
me and Dill were walking around town and we were like, what the shit? Like, we were just annoyed that we'd wasted 2 hours.
Yeah, basically.
And even now, I'm annoyed that we wasted part of that Sunday watching that.
It
Yeah.
was Father's Day.
I know,
We
yeah.
I know. It was our anniversary.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Bloody hell. Shit. That's what
Anyway,
that is.
question number 10: did it have a personal impact on you? Yes. To never go and see these films again.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah, no, I'm not giving it the.
I'm
star
still
for that
waiting
at
for them
all.
to make a decent cult film. They tried it with American Horror Story, like a season to do with a cult, and that flopped as
Oh,
well.
really?
Yeah.
It's hard because you've got to believe there's a world where they're that organized, but also that nuts, but also like like you can keep the secrecy. Because nowadays that'd be hard. Like even if you're trying to keep it going down with families, you're gonna get a kid who's more into like, you know, reggae and Twitter, and then
Yeah.
like just gonna like say, "Oh, guys, do you know what my mum did?
Good.
Yeah, she chops
Well,
up people."
I watched stuff on YouTube, it's like top 10 weirdest or whatever, and then I watched documentaries about cults, and there's things that are so interesting if people adapted from actual cults, but just this whole beheaded person with this weird crown, and
There's a great documentary series on Netflix now about cults, actually, that I'm like a couple of episodes in. It's called Wild Wild Country.
right.
And it's about this, it started out in India following this kind of, Indian guru dude. And it got massive, like loads of Americans and other immigrants and Europeans would go and find it. And they basically went to Oregon and America and built their own city. But people started kicking off about that, so then they just went and took over like a local town with like 40 people, like 400 people in it. It's really interesting.
Bloody hell.
But just the way like you see these people now, and they're all like 60, they're in this cult in like the 80s, and they're like, lawyers and architects and they're doctors, and because they actually built this city from scratch, like the first one in the world.
Oh wow.
And it's just the kind of like then they go in on the footage of like it was like a kind of free sex thing, and there's like they had these weird like fighting orgies, and like they show some actual footage from in there. But it's super weird to see the people talking about it now, and then know that this one dude could like had some weird charisma that just everybody was obsessed with getting anywhere near him. So yeah, I can see how it'd be interesting. I think a cult needs a charismatic leader type thing, and maybe that'd be the angle to go at the movie from.
Will Smith.
The Master is a good example of a cult film, I guess. The guy who started Scientology is played by Philip Seymour Hoffman in it. It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
Paul Thomas. It's the guy who did There Will Be Blood and Lincoln and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's basically a cult then, because it was right in the early days of Scientology, and that's a really kind of good film. So there are kind of not good non-horror films that are good about cults out there.
Yeah, I think I'd love to see something based around Jonestown.
The mass suicide thing.
Yeah, I think that would be a much more interesting, because there's so much more about that to explore. Like, I've listened to a podcast on it, and that was about 4 hours long, just depicting everything. And this guy had so much charisma that he managed to convince all these people to take their own lives. And like, you've heard about it, and the audio clips are all over YouTube of how like devastating. I think that would be interesting, so people can learn a bit more about that, rather than just through.
Maybe we should watch that film or something along that.
Yeah.
Compare it to this, which, by the way, guys, 2 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely abysmal. The worst film we've rated, at least on the 10-star scale.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
Yeah, no, we are not big fans of this. If you did enjoy it, please let us know why, because we'd love to know a differing opinion. But for us, I just don't think it's really in the question.
It's not even one that's like, maybe I'll revisit it and I'll be a bit more open. Like, I just don't see how I could ever be that compelled by this
I would
film.
never watch this film again.
Mm.
I think the important thing is to stay away from hype. There was a film, just really quick.
Why? What's he been doing?
There was a film called Veronica that was added on Netflix, and people reviewed it like, I couldn't watch. I had to walk out. Like,
Is that Spanish one?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the film, but it wasn't scary in the slightest. My brother-in-law messaged me and he's like, you need to watch it first, tell me if it's scary, because I can't handle it. And I was like, this is shit. Like, as far as, like, scariness, it was, like, an interesting story about possession, as most horror films are. But there was nothing in it creepy, so for people to be like, oh, I couldn't watch it, I had to walk out. I don't think we should believe any of them now.
No.
Because
I definitely considered walking out.
yeah,
You just see us downstairs for the hot dog.
Oh.
you're just making up for it. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, no, let's
end
leave it there. Is there
Okay.
anything else you want to talk about before we end the show? Or are we all good?
It's Jonestown
Yeah,
time.
that's
No, okay. So thank you very much for listening to this episode of Tripod Talk. If you'd like to keep listening to us, you can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, any sort of podcast platform. To keep up to date with us, just hit the subscribe button somewhere. What is that?
You did like anything at all. You did a Phil DeFranco tone.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you just ruined my outro.
Sorry, do
anyway.
it again.
But yeah, we'd appreciate it all the same. But yeah, again, if you've got this far, then thank you for listening to us. I've been Matt Lidster. I've been your host. I've been joined by Miss Sophie Ellis.
Bye.
And Mr. Adele Amoir.
See ya.
We have been talking about films and stuff. See ya.
See ya.
See ya.